Today we're heading into some pretty complex territory.
We'll be exploring a ritual that sparked, well, quite a bit of debate and discussion, to say the least. Female genital cutting.
Definitely a sensitive subject, no way around it. We're much more interested in understanding the cultural context surrounding this practice, specifically as it existed among the Ojai.
Right, understanding is key, and we're lucky enough to have some fascinating material to help us do just that.
You know? These songs can reveal so much about the Ojai people, their belief systems, the pressures within their communities, how they viewed the world, really.
Precisely. Think of it, picture this. A maze of rivers and creeks, all surrounded by this incredibly vibrant green landscape.
Wow, it's like their surroundings are almost a character in their story, wouldn't you say?
100%. In fact, they even believe in these, well, water spirits, who they say taught them a lot of their traditions, their dances, the songs we'll be talking about, even their hairstyles. The Och are divided into clans. They call them Ibima, each with its own set of traditions, ways of doing things. And here's something that might surprise you. Female genital cutting, it wasn't something practiced by all Och clans.
Really? So even from the outset, it's a much more nuanced picture than saying, this is what the Ojai people did.
The main reason they gave was to control, well, what they saw as excessive female sexual desire, both before and after marriage, actually.
It's amazing how a single word can encapsulate so much cultural anxiety, isn't it? You can really feel the weight of their expectations for women, how they were supposed to behave, all wrapped up in that one term.
And what's interesting is that they all had very similar practices, often performing FGC on, are you ready for this, pregnant women. And it was all very hush-hush, shrouded in secrecy. But here's the thing. The woman wasn't just left on her own. She had a whole support system in place. Her friends, sometimes as many as 20 women, would stay with her, helping her mother out with daily tasks, tending to her needs until she was back on her feet. Absolutely. For instance, they had what they called the Asalegbarera. Sounds like a mouthful, right? But it basically translates to the camel mixer.
The camwood mixer?
Basically, they would choose a young girl to be the one who'd undergone FGCs, like constant companion, holding the lamp at night, tending to her needs, that sort of thing.
It's a lot to take in. But you know what's really interesting? It gets even more complicated. Because over time, this ritual, it started to evolve, almost morphing into something that resembled, believe it or not, a marriage ceremony.
It did, and it happened gradually, not all at once. I'm happy to. This list, provided by the bride's family, it was basically a detailed inventory of everything the groom was expected to provide for both his bride-to-be and her family. It became a very public display of wealth, a way for men to show off their generosity, how well they could provide. Families would brag about how much their son had managed to, well, shower on their future bride. Well, it's possible that some young women, seeing all this attention and, frankly, the wealth associated with the ritual, they might have viewed pregnancy and the subsequent FGC as a way to access that, even if they weren't necessarily ready for marriage.
Well, we've got to remember, right? We've been talking about those 4 specific clans. Were these lavish, almost competitive celebrations the norm across the board?
Not at all. In fact, other Och clans did things totally differently. It was the fathers who took center stage. They were the ones sponsoring these gatherings, often as a way of, well, flexing their own wealth and status. It was a huge to-do.
It's hard to reconcile this image of celebration, of joy, with what we know about the ritual itself, isn't it?
But speaking of complexity, we haven't even touched on the songs themselves. And those songs, they're at the very heart of our deep dive today.
You're right. Let's talk music. What can you tell us about these songs, what they reveal, and how they fit into all of this? Where should we even begin? These songs, they weren't just like background music, They weren't just there for entertainment. They were deeply, deeply woven into the fabric of this whole experience. Okay.
One group, sung by the women while they were out gathering herbs and medicinal plants, those tended to focus more on love, relationships, that sort of thing.
So a way to find some lightness, some connection amidst a pretty heavy experience.
Exactly.
It's amazing how music can do that. But let's talk about the lyrics themselves. What kind of stories were these songs telling? What were the main themes? Oh, wow, that's heavy. And so powerful, the way they use metaphors, these everyday objects, to express something so deeply personal, so profound. It's like these songs, they weren't just reflecting their lives, they were trying to shape the lives of the next generation, to impart wisdom.
Exactly. And it's fascinating.
They serve all these different purposes. They were expressing emotion, teaching traditions, offering practical guidance. It's incredible how much they packed into those lyrics.
It really is.
It really is. And it just goes to show, sometimes The most profound insights come from the most unexpected places. Who knew that songs about a ritual like FGC could reveal so much about an entire culture? It's a good reminder that there's always more than meets the eye, wouldn't you say?
100%. And honestly, I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've just scratched the surface today, and there's so much more to explore.
So for those of you who want to dive deeper into the world of the Up people,
Keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.